Hello my friend, it's King Gabriel again, and obviously this is another impromptu video. Today's video is about the middle path and electromagnetism. And why those two are going together is because of this. Whenever we take action in this world, right, we do it using, and listening for this, we do it using the mind. The mind's tool for work in the world is the ego, right? And it uses electromagnetism in order to get things done, which is how it bonds scenarios together in consciousness and creates that actual experience, or what we call actual experience, that the body gets to experience. Now it does that through charges, what we call positive and negative. So the positive charge would be a charge heading in the direction of what we actually want to have. The negative charge would be the charge that pushes away what we don't want, or moves away from what we don't want, right? So using that positive and negative scenario, the person who is walking a path towards something, he tends to have a lot of stress too. Reason being, if he is moving towards what he calls positive, right, he or she calls positive, then what happens is, in order to balance the mind, right, which is being drifted to one side or the other, there must be an equal and opposite charge, which would be negative, to balance it. So some people state that as, well, in life you just have to take the good with the bad. The truth about it is, you don't have to take the good with the bad. What they're experiencing there is the law of rhythm. And if you were to look up, let's say, the Kabbalion, or the laws of the universe according to Hermes Trismegistus, right, Trismegistus, and you look on that line of things, and this is just study all across the board. I'm not talking about following any specific religion. This is just information I'm giving that makes sense according to this. If you were to look at those laws, you would see the law of rhythm as a law. And what the law of rhythm says is that if you move in one direction, so whether you get really happy or really excited, or you move in a positive direction, rhythm compensates. So then there will also be extreme sadness, there will also be extreme suffering. But that's because you moved in a specific direction and you caused an imbalance in the charge and an imbalance in the mind. Because in order to have one thing, you have to exclude another. And remember that universal consciousness includes, accepts, and embraces all things. So if you're moving in one direction, you do have to exclude some of the others. And in excluding the others, there's a balance that has to be formed, because the charge that you took was a highly positive charge. So I know a lot of people talk about the law of positivity and be positive, be a positive person. But if we really understand that being positive is actually the other side of the same coin, then what's really happening is we're creating a lot of one charge which is meant to fail at some time. So this is why people that are very after money, for instance, very much after money and focused on money, right, they sometimes end up renouncing money altogether too, because it causes them so much stress. More money, more problems, all of that. People who are extremely on the path of being extremely healthy and deciding to go raw vegan and all that, right, which I myself was at one time. I'm not leaving myself out of this at all. What happens is, because of, if you take it really extreme and you go in that direction so harsh, you're also likely to revert and go eat meat or something like that. Or if you don't eat meat, you'll condemn others who do, which is still bad for you, because in the end, the charge, you're still focusing on the idea of eating meat and that being wrong and all of that. And so it's just too much conflict. Conflict is caused through going in one direction fully and acting as if the other is wrong, moving away from it, pushing away from it. So you still sucked into it because your attention is still on it. Even a person who decides that they're going to move away from, let's say somebody who is celibate, right, who decides they're going to be celibate. The decision to be celibate is the renunciation of sex. If you renounce sex and you push it across to the side that way, your mind is still on sex because you're renouncing it. You're still thinking of it as something bad, something wrong, or something that you don't want anything to do with. And then they find themselves judging others as well. But if they're willing to just walk that middle path, not make it wrong or right, it's not good or bad, it's what it is, it's just that, then there is the possibility of not having that love rhythm come back to spank you in the butt, right? So that's a possibility. And the way I'm showing you this is only because there is a middle path that can be walked where you are in the center of it all, right? And you won't be swayed, right? But it takes the idea of being able to sit in that completely, recognize that there are polar opposites, and not walk any of those polar opposites. Walk the middle path. So maybe it might look like being a vegetarian instead of a raw vegan. It might look like that. I'm not saying that is it, because any path is perfectly fine. Any path is fine, right? And that's the point we want to get to, acceptance of all things, because that is how universal consciousness is. It accepts all things. Now, that being said, there is still something to be looked at in the heart, and this is to deal with your heart, where if cruelty is being done to something and you know about it, it is then your choice to either continue to partake in something that will continue to cause that cruelty, or to look at it from your heart space because you have knowledge about it and back off. So if you know that animals and stuff are dying in cruel ways for you to eat that meat, then that is the consideration. It's not whether eating meat is right or wrong. It's the consideration of, will you actually want to see a cow that moves like a dog and is happy and having a good time in life die so you could have a steak? I don't know about that, right? So that's the real consideration there, because what that causes in the individual is a conflict in terms of mental state again, and they think of themselves as negative, bringing them into that same polar swing, right? So that's what we really have to look at as the spiritual beings we are. And so I wanted to talk about the middle path and electromagnetism today, just to make you aware of that, and let you see that there is a way to walk where you don't have to be drowned by the ideas of others. You don't have to think that you're wrong or right. You don't have to think about wrong or right, but you do have to think about accepting, embracing, and loving all things and everyone. Eternal love and infinite peace.